can't believe he hasn't been on my show yet. And here he is, the second overall pick for the San Diego Chargers. Best jerseys ever in the 1998 NFL Draft. Ryan Leaf, long time no see. Where's the baby?
Oh, she just made her national TV appearance, and then she's off. You know, she's a diva already, 6 months old, so it's the way it goes.
Tell me about her. I need a name. I need some characteristics. What's her personality? Give me the scouting report.
Well, she thought it was a good idea last night at 2:30 to say, "Hey, Dad, let's party." So she stayed up with me from 2:30 to 5, and then I couldn't get back to sleep. So I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for you. She is her name's Claiborne, and we call her Bo, and her middle name's Marvel, and her mom named her that because we struggled so much during the pandemic to get pregnant. I think we miscarried 4 times, and so she is like this miracle, this marvel, and we're pretty lucky. Oh
my gosh! So you'll take the 2:30 to 5 a.m. shift any day.
Oh, all day long. Like if Anna reaches over and says, "Get her," I'm like, yes. And so I loved it. We were in the rocking chair for 2.5 hours, just playing and laughing. She just laughs at me, and I'm a pretty lucky guy. Okay.
I don't want to even ask you anything else. I just want to cry about this with you. It's so heartwarming and beautiful. I'm so happy for you, Ryan.
Yeah, me too. Pretty lucky. 9.5 years ago, literally I was in a prison cell. So, I mean, I don't know how you write this script, but whoever did, NFL writers, thank you.
You ever think about like a movie sort of situation or anything like that? No, not for you?
No, maybe if Chris Evans plays me, then we'll do it.
Listen,
yeah. Captain America.
Let's make it happen here. Right? I'm in Hollywood. Let's get it going. Let's talk a little football. Love having you on the show. Your perspective, just your human angle on everything is amazing, and you don't hold punches. You don't. So let's get into it. When you got into the league as the second overall pick, you were walking into the Chargers locker room. You got Junior Seau, the late great. You got Rodney Harrison. What was it like during that time of the year, rookie season? These OTAs are going on, dealing with these vets.
Well, for me, it was there was a lot of shock. I mean, I felt like I belonged there for the time from when the Rose Bowl ended till when I was drafted. Players are just built up. They're built up and they're kind of placed on a pedestal individualistically. And then you have to return to the team format. And sometimes you walk into it. And at the time when I walked in, I was about to be the highest paid player on the team who hadn't done a thing, right? So there definitely is a resentment that exists probably there. Like, what has this kid done? There was no salary cap for rookies at the time. So, I mean, I went to work, and then I got to do what I love to do, and that was just to compete. And competing against Rodney Harrison and Junior Seau every single day, if you don't think that makes you better, it simply does. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun that offseason. We had a lot of fun until it wasn't fun anymore for me, and I handled it horribly. And so it certainly wasn't because of any of those guys that weren't willing to try to help. So it was a real blessing to walk into a locker room with the likes of Junior Seau and Rodney Harrison.
It's beautiful to hear. Now I'm looking at this, you've changed so much, of course, and everything's changed so much. And the Chargers have changed locations and jerseys and coaches left and right. And now they've got a new guy that you were teammates with. So I want to get into that. 1999, 2000, you and Jim Harbaugh. What do you remember from Jim, the quarterback, 25 years ago in San Diego?
He taught me how to be a professional. I did not know how to be one. I was so entitled, and I thought I was the victim in all of this. And he walked into it, had a locker just a couple doors down from me, and he just kind of laid it out. And he didn't suffer any fools, and he was the most competitive person I've ever been around, ever, in anything. It didn't matter what we were doing. And we became friends. We became fast friends. He's still a friend to this day. Saw him before I called the Baltimore Houston playoff game last year in Baltimore. It was really good to see him. Tried to get a little insight to whether or not he was taking the Chargers job. He kind of gave me the head nod. He just taught me how to be a professional, because once I left San Diego, I had the best relationships with teammates in Tampa and Dallas and Seattle than I ever did in San Diego, and it was because of Jim and how he went about his business. Unfortunately for me, it was talent-wise, injuries, was too late to be the player that I wanted to be now that I had the personality that I needed to as a leader of a football team. But he definitely taught me that, and that's a reason why he's continued to be a great leader from the moment he, took off the cleats and put on the coach's hat and glasses.
I've had a lot of people who know Jim like you do come on the show and start saying crazy things. like the Chargers will be in the AFC Championship game within 2 years. The Chargers are going to make it to the playoffs this year with Jim. You'll see what he does. The turnaround will be real, a la San Francisco. Do you have that same thoughts about him, or are you preaching patience with the Chargers under Jim?
Well, I'm always preaching patience anytime you have something new, but lightning strikes in the NFL. I mean, you build towards a one-year dynamic. You've seen it happen in LA already with the Rams a few years back, and Houston a year ago, just by putting the right pieces together, the right head coach, the right identity. I really think the liability in Los Angeles has been Brandon Staley, just the decision-making on his part. They were a very good football team for the last couple of years, and they had a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. So, yeah, I think there's a real possibility. The AFC is just absolutely loaded, Kay. You know this. It's just, there's just too many variables to put into this algorithm. Like, if you could say, like, let's just go all NFL encompassing in terms of record, and maybe we'll have 2 or 3 NFC teams, and we'll go with, 11 AFC teams. That might be the best way to do the playoffs this year, because that's who the best team is right now, are the AFC participants, but that's not the way it's going to go. They're going to be teams that you look at and you undeniably think they're a playoff team, and then you have to add them all up and you go, well, how do they get in? How do the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers get in, along with the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets, and then the Chiefs, the Chargers, maybe the Raiders? Houston now is there. Is Jacksonville going to do something? I mean, you are absolutely fighting fire right now when it comes to what the AFC has to present next season. So I think it's going to be great. I think that Jim has the wherewithal, along with Justin and that team, to be right there. But as everybody knows, they have to deal with the best team in all of football in their division, period.
Justin's so polarizing. He's got the talent. I think there's a lot of pressure on him. I'm straddling a fence of, is he the luckiest quarterback this year because he gets Jim? He just got Joe Alt. He got these receivers. Or is he the quarterback that's under the most pressure almost? I don't know. Justin's, with all of this, Jim has to perform, but Justin has to perform this year too.
Yeah, everybody does. They got the big contract. He got hurt a year ago. This is something new for him to go out and do his job. And so, hopefully, I don't know if he's playing in this golf tournament I play in here in June. If he is, it'll be good to speak with him and see how things are going with Jim. But I think he's really special. I thought he was special since I covered him as a freshman at Oregon when I was in the Pac-12 there. He's just a great young man, great leader of men. They want to follow him. So if anybody can do it, it's the two people they have at the very top of that organization, in Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert.
A birdie in my ear told me you're a big Russell Wilson fan. So let's get right to that. The Steelers, they actually start and they kick off their OTAs today. And the big question is, in their quarterback room, is it Russ? Is it Justin? Is it going to be an upgrade, surely, on what it was last year, because they were averaging like less than a touchdown a game the entire season? How do you see that competition playing out?
Well, I don't think there's going to be a competition, frankly. I think that it's Russ's job. I think he's got everything to play for. I think it would absolutely be hilarious. And also that you would have to ask the question, if you ever get Sean Payton on the show here in between the season start, ask him if he is, would he go to the Super Bowl parade, since they essentially gave them a franchise quarterback and are paying the freight for it, because I don't see why the Pittsburgh Steelers couldn't be a Super Bowl champion.
Let's be clear. Sean did not pay him that money.
Well, no, but he's on the hook for it, because he walked into a situation like pretending that he didn't know he was going to coach Russell Wilson. When he took the job, that was the job. I don't know if he could have messed things up more than anybody Sean Payton has in his short time there, but oh well, that's the way it goes, Denver. You're going to be in that 4th spot in the AFC West for the foreseeable future, I feel. And I'm sorry about that, but I'm happy because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And so I love the fact that Russ is there, because they just needed competent quarterback play since maybe the last couple of years of Ben Roethlisberger. They have that. I mean, I covered the wild card game in Buffalo. They played incredibly well. Mike Tomlin got them played really well. If they would have been able to have Watt in that game, I don't know if it would have made a difference with Josh Allen the way he played. But this Steelers team is ripe for the taking, okay? And my biggest worry for them simply is the back half of the schedule. They have all 6 of their divisional opponents in the final 8 weeks of the season. So if the injury bug, which has plagued them, comes into play, that could affect them negatively. But everybody's banged up. But that also could be a really great tool if they are able to establish an early run against the conference and other opponents and have a great record heading into the division. Watch out for the Steelers. I think Russ has still every bit of being a Super Bowl champion quarterback in him, and I don't think anybody else does. And I think he's going to shock a lot of people with Arthur Smith and what they do with that offense.
And you're saying like they could win the North, maybe?
Definitely. I mean, they were right there a year ago, but that division is so darn good.
All of them are.
They beat the Ravens both times last year. I know the games were kind of weird games. The first one, Lamar and Ravens had it completely put away, and somehow they just decided to give it away to Pittsburgh in that one. And then the final game of the year, Huntley was in there playing at quarterback, rainstorm, but Pittsburgh still found a way to win, to get to the playoffs, and get an opportunity. So you never know year to year. That defense is depleted with some of the best weapons from Baltimore. They lose their defensive coordinator. I know John puts things back together and does a great job. I don't know how much of a hangover that AFC Championship is going to be when their real opportunity was there and they just, laid an egg in the worst possible moment against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see. That division is going to be phenomenal. I like the Steelers. There may be some bias in there for me, but it's my black and yellow.
I'm more interested in the bias on the whole Denver take. Take me back there. Was it a mistake to move on from Russell Wilson?
Well, I think it was. I mean, I don't know. They've just made mistake after mistake. I don't know how the general manager continues to have a job. I mean, if somebody came to you with the resume that he has, right? He hires Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach. He makes the trade for Russell Wilson and pays him that much money. Then he brings in Sean Payton and gives away a draft pick, second-round draft pick for it. I mean, how many general managers have that job with that resume going into this season, allowing them to draft and try to rebuild? So I don't know. I don't know what he has on new ownership, or whether the new ownership was just kind of,
Ryan.
It's problematic. I have a really good friend that I went to high school with who is just absolutely a diehard Denver Broncos fan. And, I've tried to convince him over and over. It's going to be an early grave for you, boy. You need to move to a champion here soon. And, I'm not a huge Sean Payton fan. I'm sure he's not a huge fan of mine.
Why? I didn't realize.
Yeah, I think he's probably got the worst type of ego for a head coach in the NFL right now. So that's going to be a problem.
And is that why you think it didn't work out with Russell?
I think he already had it preconceived when he walked into the deal, which is strange to take the job knowing you most likely would have him for 2 years because of all the dead money. It didn't make much sense to me. I don't know what this team is. I don't know what this team will look like. I don't know if he, with the release of Russell and giving himself a couple of years to kind of figure it out and find his way, he must have some really good job security, because I don't think Denver's going to be any good for a couple of years.
No love for Bo Nix.
I love Bo Nix, but I mean, he's going to be a rookie. So, I don't know if he's got the CJ Stroud mentality in him right off the bat, but we'll see.
Falcons, they're at OTAs today. Kirk Cousins out there. So is a rookie that you like very much, and Michael Penix, 8th overall pick. I know that you like his game quite a bit, but the nice thing is he gets to sit and develop, which is beautiful, and he gets to learn from a great quarterback like Kirk. When all is said and done, we look back at this, when the history of this draft class is written, is he the one that ends up being the Hall of Famer?
Oh, I mean, that is such a prognostication, right?
You know what I mean, but is he going to be the best out of this draft class? From where he was taken, the way he's coming in, the development aspect, the weaponry, what do you think? The division?
Well, I had him as my number one quarterback. In fact, I had him as my number one quarterback last year. So this isn't new news. I think he's the most pro-ready. The fact that he's going to be able to sit and learn from what is a great veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins, I thought this was a great move. This was playing chess when others were playing checkers. Everybody was so pissed about the fact that they used the 8th overall pick to take a quarterback they're not going to use for a couple years, and what effect that would have on the likes of Kirk Cousins. I just thought this was doing what was best for a team to have a decade-long quarterback campaign with, a couple guys that can dominate that division. So I love it. I think that Kirk could easily be, if he's healthy, a top 5 quarterback this year with the talent they have around him. Atlanta can win that division, and they can throw their hat into the ring. And when it comes to the NFC, definitely. And so I expect that for the next couple of years. I'm not sold completely on medical technology and how advanced it has become, especially with Achilles tendon for aging quarterbacks. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I have reservations about both him and Aaron Rodgers in New York. We have to wait to see it and see how valuable they are to their teams, mobility wise and doing the things they've always done. But if he is healthy, he's a top 5 quarterback in this league, especially statistically with the weapons that he has. So Michael Penix will be right there. And as we saw a year ago, as the injury bug hit Kirk Cousins, they didn't have a reliable backup. If Minnesota did, with the defense that Brian Flores brought to the table, Minnesota would have been in a position to make some noise in the NFC. I really do, with that defense. Instead, they got booted to the side. And if Michael Penix Jr. is forced into action this year because of an injury, I think everybody in Atlanta are going to be thanking their lucky stars that they went and got this guy. I really do. He's that special. And that's hard for me to say because he's a dog, and us Cougs don't like to talk about dogs in a glowing fashion.
Wow, he was your #1 guy coming out. That's amazing. And I think he's in the perfect situation. I'm this old school way of sit behind the quarterback, learn, develop, don't get rushed out there. I know everybody wants to put their, not everybody's going to be C.J. Stroud. And we've seen so many quarterbacks hurt developmentally being thrown into there without the right situation. Caleb's a little different because he's got a kind of a nice situation, I think, going out there. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. I think they should go more all in than ever. I think they're missing a receiver. I think they should go grab somebody else. They should trade for somebody big.
I've felt this way for a couple of years. I thought last year was the perfect opportunity for him, where they were drafting, to do something that Green Bay had never done for him and grab a wide receiver in round 1.
Yeah. Or
in this case, I thought Dalton Kincaid would have been a great pickup for him in New York, but they didn't. They went with Will McDonald, who nothing against him, but he was a guy used as a third rusher on a defense that has loaded with rushers. You always need depth. I get that. But at this point, for this all to work, it has to be offensive generated. Defense is going to be good, but this offense has to be great. And for people who are New York Jets fans to think that this ultimately just changes we're doing the same thing that we did a year ago. The hype is all there. Everything is there. Didn't we just do this a year ago? And you got 4 plays out of the deal. So we don't know. You and I just talked about the AFC being loaded, and where do they rate? They're going to be teams. Aaron Rodgers is one of those teams that easily you could see on the outside looking in when playoff time comes. And it won't be because they're not a good football team. It will be because the AFC is just great.
I think they need to make a blockbuster move. I'm manifesting it. I think it's going to happen. They got to do something. I want to bring in Matthew Hamilton here because there's all this hoopla about Trevor Lawrence. I don't know why he's so polarizing. Hammer, of course. You guys have worked together on Good Morning Football. Hammer, ask away. Here he is.
Yeah, so Ryan, I don't know if you heard a lot of talk yesterday about Trevor Lawrence. Dan Orlovsky, who we love and respect, said that Trevor doesn't deserve top-tier money right now. But I would point to the fact that he led the Jags to a playoff run in 22. They were 9-3 last year before he suffered 4 different serious injuries. Where do you come out on Trevor and where he stands in these contract negotiations right now?
Well, when it comes to contract negotiations, it's much different than how I view Trevor Lawrence as a player and as a human being. I think the kid is, I keep calling him a kid. I met Trevor after his freshman year when I went to Clemson to speak, and him and I have stayed in touch ever since. And the kid had never lost before, right? And then he gets Urban Meyer in year 1 and loses more games than he ever have combined. And to see him fight and keep fighting through it, and he's the leader of that football team. If you're telling me there's another quarterback that's going to do a better job than what Trevor Lawrence can do in Jacksonville and ultimately get them to the place they need to get to, then you're selling me, selling me something that isn't real, because he is the guy. So yes, he deserves top tier money. If you don't want to put his statistics up there, fine. I'm okay with that. And that's the way people like to do it. I think he's the franchise of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like what they did this offseason in retaining Josh Allen on the defensive side, though. They needed that. The injury was really something, and the fact that he went out and, if you remember watching that injury against Cincinnati, there's no way any of us thought that he would be able to go the next week. let alone maybe the rest of the year, the way he went down with that type of injury. And where was he the next week in Cleveland? Out on the field, throwing it, I don't know, 55 times in that instance. He's your franchise quarterback. He deserves the money.
Top money. I agree. Top quarterbacks, nobody else can do that. He does get injured, which is tough, but it's the way he plays. And he's also hurdling guys left and right to get into the end zone and giving it his all. You got to pay that guy top tier money. Dan Orlovsky, we love you. Okay, one last one for you. Last weekend I'm watching Fanatics does this thing, and it's, billionaire Michael Rubin, and it's Jay-Z, and it's Tom Brady, and they're sitting there with all these rookie quarterbacks, and they're chatting, they're pontificating, they're giving all their best advice. It was really beautiful. You're a little different. You're a little raw. I'd like to know if you got a chance to sit at a table with all of these incoming rookie quarterbacks, no cameras, what is the one thing you're telling them?
I would tell them that this is about how to fail. And I think that the perception of failure, especially around football, is completely, misdiagnosed. One of the things Peyton Manning told me years later, I think it was, I don't know when it was. I always ask him these questions, and I'm sure he's sick and tired of it when we're together. But I just ask him how he did it. I keep asking him how he did it because I couldn't do it. He did it so well. It's fascinating to me. And he always talked about every one of the interceptions he threw his rookie year, and he threw the most in the league, if you recall. I don't know if I could have handled that, I know I couldn't have handled that. And he just said every single one of those interceptions, or what he would call little failures, was an opportunity to do better the next time. And what a simple way to look at it. And I feel like I did look at it that way up until the point I got to the highest possible level. And then there was a restructuring or a new kind of chemistry in my brain that wasn't able to see that, because all I heard was the criticism and the judgment. And so that's what I would talk about. I would talk to them about this life is going to be how to fail. And if you don't understand that, and it's hard to do that when you trot up Tom Brady there in that moment, because I don't think if you put Tom Brady and myself on a stage and pointed to you to identify a success and a failure, that would be very hard for anybody. When in reality, we're both extremely successful. It's all about perspective and understanding of that. I think he's a great mentor because he comes from a different place. He comes from as a 6th-round draft pick who worked his tail off and continued to work and get better every single year and be a team guy. So I think I don't know if there's a better guy to sit in that room and talk to those guys. It just seems, very starstruck, when you have Jay-Z and Michael Rubin, of course, who are all these self-made, millionaires, billionaires who have gotten to this point. Because in that room of 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round, odds are that there's going to be 1 out of the 6 that you look back on and say that was the guy. And unfortunately, that's just the numbers. And it's about the teams you go to. It's about the opportunities when you get them. There's so many variables that go into the success of a quarterback in the NFL. And then years later, you'll be looked at as something that, oh, you sucked. You weren't any good. You didn't deserve to be there. That's a bunch of crap. Every guy that's drafted in the top 10, top 15 deserves to be there. They're talented. No one misdiagnosed a scouting aspect of things. They misdiagnosed on how someone was going to deal with failure on the highest possible level. No one can quantify that until you actually go through it. And the other one that I thought you couldn't quantify as a variable was what's life-changing money going to do to you. You couldn't quantify that until recently. Now you know, and I think it's going to help scouts a ton heading to the NFL. You're going to see NFL guys about to be drafted who got life-changing money the last couple of years, right? $10-12 million for Caleb Williams. How did that affect their work ethic, their leadership? You're going to be able to find that out before, so maybe you don't make the mistake of drafting a guy too high because money ultimately became a bigger part of what the final equation was.
That is a great point by you, and the art of failing and how to failure is something that very few do well. And it's beautiful.
I have
to
done
hear.
it as good as anybody, people.
I mean,
Let's do
everyone
it.
has failures. Failures are a part of life. It's okay,
Yep.
and you own them, and you are a brilliant example for all of us. Ryan, go get some sleep, would you? Go. Do you get a nap now?
Yeah, I get a nap and then I have a dentist appointment. So it's just,
Okay, go take a nap. Enjoy. Your daughter is beautiful. So many blessings in life, and it's all part of the journey. You are the best. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And pay Trevor Lawrence. We'll be back with Shams Charania.